Hello, good morning, everybody. Today, we're now going to talk about evaluating messages and text. From the previous discussions, we've discussed about a lot on culture and how it relates to man. As we communicate, there are different messages that we will receive and the ways we perceive these messages. Wherein interpretations will soon follow. Now, let's start the discussion. In every communication process, there will always be the message, the text, wherein, as what we discussed, it is the information conveyed in the entire process. It comprises verbal or nonverbal content, which may be spoken, written, or manual for sign language. For other people, believe that sign language is not an entire language that you can understand. Even if you just look into the gestures of man, you can still understand it, right? So therefore, whether it is verbal or non-verbal, it is considered a language. Now, in this lesson class, message now refers to any recorded message such as writing, audio recording, audio and video recording that is physically independent of its sender or receiver, right? So basically, we will talk about messages wherein it is being or it can be read from a book. You can hear it from just like what is mentioned, an audio recording, probably in video clips that we'll be encountering later on, and so forth, right? So that again, message is physically independent in this lesson. Now, when you are giving messages, you will have your medium, wherein the medium includes such broad categories as speech and writing, or print and broadcasting, or relate specific technical forms with the mass media, radio, television, newspapers, magazines, photographs, films, and records. You can remember from the communication process, we also have the channel, wherein we can somehow relate the channel to our medium as to how the message can be delivered. In this case, where was the message put? Now, in order to produce quality text, you need to consider the following. First, you have your text type as to what kind of text will you be producing. Should it be very informative or should it be just short? Should it be too complex or can be just simple? You also need to consider about the purpose. On what purpose are you writing the paper? Are you trying to persuade, to inform, or to entertain? Again, those are the three basic purposes of quality text. Again, it's either you inform, you state your intentions to entertain, or even to persuade. Okay? Next would be your audience. Of course, your audience, again, as mentioned in the discussion and communication process, it is very much important to consider the audience for you to adjust your text itself. Again, class, these factors have implications for structure, language, and presentation. Now, structure refers to how the information is organized. You may use text genres. Examples would be kinds of texts based on its development. Texts using logical order, such as exposition. So examples with this would be cause and effect, comparison, analogy, definition, classification, problem, solution, and persuasion. So depending on what kind of text will you be creating will be based here on the different structures. If you want to show the effect of a certain cause or of a certain issue, then you go for cause and effect. If you want to compare two issues or data, you go for comparison. And at the same time goes over and over for the other structures. Okay? Next, text using chronological or time order. Now, in the same way, you can also narrate the experiences that are embedded or that are present in the text. It can also be a process, wherein if you would try to show a process or a series of ways in order to do things, then you go for process. Such, you also have texts using spatial or space order. You go for description or describing the concept or the object that you are referring to. Okay? Now, language class is the means by which the information is expressed, verbally or non-verbally. Earlier, we've mentioned already that language can be verbal or non-verbal, and your language there is considered the means. Okay? So you have your means, which is language, and you have your medium for different ways for you to tackle or to give information. Now, ideas may be conveyed using any of the 5 language registers. Now, very formal, formal, neutral, informal, or very informal. And it's basically observable in daily life. Now, the formality of vocabulary, grammar, and mechanics needed are dictated by the register you use. Let's say, for example, you stay with your friends, and of course, it's very much hard to speak formally because since you're comfortable with your friends, you become very casual. Or should I say, we become very informal when it comes to giving information to them or discussing a lot of things. And also, if you're now talking to your instructors or of those people whom you consider to be of authority, then you go with formal language. So again, it is dictated by the register you are to use. Now, your presentation class covers the layout, format, length, oral delivery, and wherein you have your voice, your body language, and timing. Of course, when you're presenting, you can have a very soft tone, but expect that it will not be that understandable for others, which is why there is what we call as the proper modulation of voice. As much as possible, don't speak too fast, just speak normally, right? And at the same time, you don't need to shout. When you say that you have a very low voice, still there are adjustments that you can make without shouting. Also have your body language. Still, class body language is very much important because number one, it shows that you are very much sensitive to your listener. And by being sensitive, again, you listen, or at the same time, you focus onto the listener. Again, you show eye contact, you show a lot of hand gestures in order to produce more information or to help you out. And finally, we have timing. Timing again is another issue on presentation since others believe that the more or the longer your presentation is, the more it will be better. Well, it depends again on the person because there are also other people who would listen to presentations that long and they would bore themselves out, right? So again, it is our task to, as much as possible, make presentations brief yet informative and comprehensive. And any other conventions class, such as spelling and referencing. Of course, we should also check on how we deliver our information. In the event that we make mistakes, we should also voice that out and try to correct those things. Again, it shows being accountable and responsible for our communication. Now, class, we have the semiotic and text analysis. Now, we have here one study on the study of signs, and let's now focus on semiotics, wherein it's concerned with everything that can be taken as a sign. And since I think you are mostly waiting for signs to happen, well, if you pay attention to the things around you, you would automatically think of a concept, even if it's not really directly related to that thing. Still, that is how powerful a mind is, because We can think automatically of a concept even by just looking on a certain object. It involves the study not only of what we refer to as signs in everyday speech, but of anything which stands for something else. In a sense, signs take the forms of words, or the form of words, images, sounds, gestures, and objects. Now class, which is why, if you pay attention also on signs, we have two parts of it. The first one is your signifiers, wherein these are the sounds and the images. So by just looking on any object that you're looking on right now, even if you're just listening to this presentation or report, let's say you look into yourself and suddenly it vibrated or it lit. So it can have that as a signifier. And your signified, again, which talks about concepts, by looking now into your cell phone which has lit, then probably there might be someone who has messaged you or somebody is calling. So that again, class, is on signifiers and signified. Again, signifiers are your sounds and images or whatever you see, and signifieds, the signified talks about the concept. Now the sign is the whole that results from the association of the signifier with the signified. Another example that we would look on is when we're looking on the stop sign. Of course, we already see that it's a stop sign, but once you can already see that sign, since your sign there, the stop sign is the signifier, your signified is the concept of stopping. Because you've understood that you need to stop, you've understood the sign. That is how understanding the sign works. Now, the relationship class between the signifier and the signified is referred as signification. Again, the process or the relationship is called signification. Now, for example, if you hear the sounds represented by the letters B, O, Y, or even a picture of a boy, the signifier, you think of a concept male child, the signified. That is how, again, the relationship works, just like what we did on the stop sign. Together, the sounds of the word or the picture and the concept created by the sounds form a sign. Now, class, semiosis, a term borrowed from Charles Sanders Peirce, is the process by which a culture produces signs and or assigns meaning to signs. When you look into the signs of our country, there are signs here in our place or in our country which is not found outside the Philippines. And that again shows how culture may assign or may create signs only exclusive into their place. Okay? Now, semiotics class can be understood as the mental concept it represents, which is common to all members of the same culture who share the same language. It is really much hard for you to understand the signs of other or from other cultures if you also do not understand their language. Which is why, in order for you to understand further what a sign or what you see really means, you also need to have the concept of asking. Again, it is not bad if you ask some things and it doesn't make you less intelligent. Still, by asking or by being curious, you are giving yourself more opportunities to learn. Now, semiotics class therefore refers to a kind of social interaction among individuals who try to make sense out of the different interpretations possibilities of the sign. Thus, remember that semiotics is almost, if not always, everywhere. Right? You're just talking to a person and you see how he does, how he moves. There's already semiotics in that aspect. Thus, you again try to interpret what could that mean. You try to get the signified. Okay? Now, language class as a sign creates misunderstanding when used by second language users. Errors are often seen in translation. Haven't you noticed that even if we're using English, there are also instances where we might create mistakes in understanding English of other speakers, right? From our previous discussion, we've learned that there's a difference between American English and your British English. For others, they would say, okay, go to the first floor, and then later on, other people would just go down onto the lowest part of the building. For others, they would go to the second because they're thinking it as British English, right? So there will be possible errors, and it's inevitable because again, we come from different cultures. Samples class, Come Alive with the Pepsi Generation was literally translated in Germany as Rise from the Grave with Pepsi, right? Because if you would think Come Alive, there might be two interpretations for that. You would say Come Alive, meaning to say you would be so alive and looking so alive that everything is so happy, that everything is so joyful. On the other hand, we can also have another interpretation in Germany, which would mean now as rising from the dead or rising from the dead. Right? So see the difference that it may have different interpretations. Now in China class, it was even translated as Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave. Right? So still, it was already a different interpretation this time, much related to Germany. But still, it shows how differences in culture and how understanding would really take place in different forms. Now, we go to mass media and multimodal texts. Mass media refers to the type of communication that uses technology to simultaneously reach a wide audience. Now, of course, when you're talking to mass media or when you're talking to large group of people, there is the part of you that would think of innovative ways to reach a lot of people. And right now, we have technology at its finest. We have internet to automatically reach people, especially almost anyone in the globe uses social media, right? So again, by the usage of technology, you're able to reach a large number of people. Now, a text now class is multimodal when it combines two or more of the 5 semiotic systems. Now, we have the 5 semiotic systems here, which we're now going to discuss in very brief as we are also seeing the diagram here. We have visual, linguistic, audio, gestural, and spatial. Let's now first go into linguistic or the textual system, wherein it comprises aspects such as vocabulary, generic structure, and the grammar or of oral and written language. So we look further on how a language or the message was said using different words, using on how the sentence was composed, and a lot more. And you see that as persons, we also have different writing systems and the way we deliver things. Sometimes we get to be more formal on some occasions, and we get to even become more casual in other situations. Okay? We also have the visual system, which consists of aspects such as color, vectors, and viewpoint in still and moving images. By just looking into an object, you already see that there might be a sign out of it. Number 3, audio system, with aspects such as volume, pitch, and rhythm of music and sound effect. Upon hearing a certain song that you've been hearing for a long time when you were sad, still, it relates to you as a person. Gestural system, which includes now aspects such as movement, speed, and stillness in facial expression and body language. We also look into how you move as a person, because even by just body movements or hand gestures, it still speaks of meaning. Then, lastly, we have the spatial system, wherein it covers aspects such as proximity, direction, position of layout, and organization of objects in space. Again, when we say spatial system, it talks about distance and space, whether it's near or far. Okay? Now, there are examples, class, of multimodal texts, which be delivered via or via different media or technologies. We've been seeing a lot right now of picture books for children, in which the textual and visual elements are arranged on individual pages that contribute to an overall set of bound pages. That's for picture book. We also have the web page, wherein we're also very much familiar with this, in which elements such as sound effects, oral language, written language, music, and still or moving images are combined. And basically, you can see almost any of the 5 spatial systems there, or the 5 semiotic systems. And we also have the live ballet performance, in which gesture, music, and space are the main elements. So basically, class, those are again for the samples of spatial systems, or even as the application of the 5 semiotic systems. If you can also give other examples of situations that show, or multimodal texts, messages that show any of the 5 semiotic systems, you can put your answers on the comment section below, and we'll try to discuss some things about it. Right? So after this, please see your MS Teams so that the scope of your midterm examinations will be given onto you, and at the same time, you can review as early as possible. Okay? So may you all have a great day, everybody, and thank you so much for listening to our discussion.